Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to create a memorial jar for a friend to hold the ashes of her beloved and deeply missed pet. I'm going to use AR400 Arc Liquid Pigment and some of the ashes to make a totally unique memorial piece. Lastly, I'll engrave a personalised design onto the piece using the xTool F1 Laser Engraver. I would like to give a warning, viewer caution advice. This video discusses the loss of a pet and also shows the pet's ashes being used in the making of the jar. It also has a section showing a laser engraver being used and there will be flashing lights. I've given you the start and stop times here. So this is the first time I've ever worked with ashes of any kind, a person's or a pet's. And at this point I was feeling very nervous and anxious and very respectful and mindful of the fact that this was my friend's pet that she'd entrusted me with his ashes. So I'm really careful here. I don't want to lose any. I want to, just treat them very respectfully. So what I've done is I've weighed out the AR400 mixture and I'm going to add just a little sprinkling of the ashes into the mixture. And we talked about this, my friend and I, and she felt that that would be something that she would like, that he would always be part of the jar as well as be in the jar. And I thought that's something I could try and do for her as well. And she also loves a little bit of sparkle. And I know that it's probably not going to show up, but I thought along with the little scattering of ashes, I'm going to pop in a little bit of sparkly glitter as well. Just a tiny little sprinkle, just to add that extra something. And I'm also not sure how much the ashes will show when the piece is cured. So, I thought that could add to the overall effect. So after giving that a really good stir in, I'm going to add the water and then I'm going to add in the Arc Liquid Pigment in Violet. Now, a few videos back, I made some little jars in honour of lupus awareness, and when my friend came over to discuss this, she saw those and loved that colour, so we're going for that colour. So I think now it's time to tell you a little bit about this beautiful cat, and that is 3 years today since he died, and she misses him deeply, and she received her ashes after he died from the vet, but has never done anything with them, and they've just been stored in that little velvet drawstring pouch. And she really thought it would be lovely that for his 3rd anniversary of his death that she could have a little jar for him. So I feel very privileged that I can do this for her. So here he is. Look how beautiful he was. His name is Cadbury, and he's quite magnificent. He was, how do we say, festively plump and floofy and looked a little bit like he had Maine Coon in him. So, he was a beautiful, beautiful, handsome boy. So it's very special that I can make this jar. And as I said, it's the first time I've ever worked with ashes or, remains. And I was quite unsure how it would go, but very grateful for her trusting me to do this for her. I'm very interested to see how the ashes affect the Eco Casting Compound, and so far they, and I guess the glitter too, just make it look a little bit sort of gritty, not as fine and smooth as it normally would be, but everything else is just as normal. It's mixing in exactly the same as it would be, and I'm hopeful that it is going to just be incorporated into the acrylic resin, and during the curing process there won't be any issues, and we'll get a similar look to just a regular pour. So I'm adding in a little bit extra purple because I know she wants it very purple. And the ARC liquid pigments are perfect for this job. They're heavily pigmented, and even though I feel like I'm putting in just so many drops, it's a really minute amount compared to the total amount of liquid I have. So once I feel that that's very well incorporated, I'm going to start pouring it into the mould. I've got the lid and the jar, and yeah, just pouring a little bit in first to the jar, and then I'm just going to give it a little bit of a squeeze and a tap, and the same with the lid, just to ensure that if there are any air bubbles, they get the opportunity to release from the edges. And I guess too, in my mind, I'm just remembering, I'm thinking at this time, are the ashes going to sink? Are they going to be suspended? It was a lot of unknowns for me, and because I felt I only had one chance at this, because I'd used some of his ashes in it, I really wanted it to turn out okay, and yeah, so it was a bit tricky to try and predict what was going to happen. Okay, so after letting those cure, I demolded them about an hour afterwards. Unfortunately, I think I either didn't film it or I lost the footage. I'm so sorry. But they did cure really well. And now you'll see me just checking the pieces out. So there's a few things that I can immediately say I'm disappointed about. One is that this mould has not retained its circular shape, and this is something that I've actually addressed since, and I'll share that with you in a future video. But for now, I felt like I had to just work with it, and so it is a slightly oval shape. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead out. I've sped this up because I was doing this for a very long time. So I'm using the wet sanding method and a variety of different sandpapers, and I'm working on reducing the one side where I think that the lid will sit of the jar, and also working on the lid of the jar as well. And the other thing about this mould, which is similar to some other jar moulds, is for some very odd reason, the top of the lid is not the part that's touching the silicone, and it never looks as good as the underside. So I do have to pay a bit of attention to that. And I think this is an area where the ashes did affect the appearance, because there is a sort of a little a little sort of a gap in the lid where I think it looks a little bit different to an air bubble. I think it may have had some ashes in there and they've shifted or something. But look, overall, I'm really happy with it. I'm just disappointed that it's not perfect. Anyway, so after all of that sanding and giving it a clean up and then letting it completely dry again, this is now several days later, I'm applying some Buan Nicole sealer wax, and the process with this is to apply it with this sponge, a fairly good coat all over, inside and out, and then just leave that sit for a few minutes and then buff that off. And the sealer is going to make sure that the jar is now, waterproof, and that the pigment won't release from the jar or anything like that. I do find when you're using the ARC liquid pigments that the darker the colour, the much more likely it is that you will have pigment coming off onto your fingers and things like that. So you do need to actually be cautious of that. Okay, so as I said, I'll go ahead and buff these, and it does give them a really beautiful appearance. I do actually end up waxing these pieces twice. I wanted to be extra certain that they were sealed and in the best possible condition prior to me laser engraving the outside. So after this, I left them for a day, and now it's time to decorate the outside. So this is the creative design space, which is xTool's proprietary software. My friend came over and we sat and chose a design together and some words that she liked. And here you'll see that little blue flashing light there is the alignment light, and that is showing me exactly where on the jar the image will be engraved into it. And I've got it set up on the AR400 rotary tool, which has allowed me to attach the jar there and clamp it in, and then it will rotate, giving me a 360-degree design completely around the whole cylindrical shape. So there is quite a bit of sort of measuring and planning that goes on with this, and if anyone is interested, I'm happy to do a video on that. But it is pretty much just a case of pressing start and letting the laser do its thing. It does have quite a startling bright appearance very quickly. You can actually see it working and marking straight away, doing the little paw prints there. And the whole process, I think, from memory, took about 13 minutes. So not that long in the scheme of things. So we'll fast forward to the finish. And when it finishes, it disengages the fan. And there it was 9 minutes. My apologies, not 13 minutes, so 9 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and very awkwardly, I'm just using one hand, release the jar from the rotary tool. This is the little clamp that goes on the end, and you get a little level that you can sit on to make sure that the items are straight. I realised I hadn't unwound the clamp enough there. And here we go. So Cadbury no longer by my side, but forever in my heart. And then little paw prints tracking all around the outside. So as I said, that was the design that we came up with together and that she wanted. And for the lid, we were looking through Creative Fabrica together, and she saw this design and she thought that would be lovely for the lid. So again, that's the framing tool that you saw before, that square, telling me that it's in the correct spot. And now we put the safety hood down before pressing start, and this is quite a quick process for just this lid. So press the go, and so it's quite interesting because it doesn't do the engraving necessarily in the order you think it would. It's similar if you own a Cricut machine, how the Cricut sometimes seems to leap from one thing to another. It does its own its own order of things. So we'll fast forward through to the end of this one as well. And when this is finished, that's the jar and the lid complete. And I do go ahead and give them both another sealing coat of the Buan Nicole wax, just to make sure that I preserve the engraved material as well. And I'll go ahead and show you some photos at the end and a little video of the finished piece. So I'm pretty happy with that. She chose very well to honour Cadbury. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you liked, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear any comments or suggestions you have, and if you'd like to share it with friends, you're very welcome to do so. And if you aren't a subscriber yet, it would be fantastic if you would subscribe and join the Blossy Bee family. And as promised, here are some photos and videos of the finished product, and I was able to give it to her in time for Cadbury's 3rd anniversary, and she seemed very happy with it. And I explained about all of the little things, that the little anomalies and everything. And she said something very smart. She said, with the imperfections, we all have them, and that's what makes us each unique. So, Vale Cadbury.